if you're interested in or thinking about using technology in any way for your church, ask yourself, is it necessary? Is it helpful? Will it help me work smarter and not harder? That way you can spend your time on what matters, and that's the church, the people of the church, the kids, the parents, and the teachers and volunteers of the church. So as far as the kids go, you need to take a quick inventory on how many kids you have, because it will really answer most of your technology questions. So the first question is, how many kids do you have? And the reason why I say that is because the difference between a dinner party and a concert is the amount of people and the amount of technology. So if there's a bunch of kids in your kids ministry, you're going to have to go for more of like concert style technology. You need like some kind of a camera, projector, TV. You'll need microphones. You'll need a sound person. But if you have like 10 kids or less, you need to just kind of treat it as a dinner party. And I would even apply this to midweek service as well. Some churches, they blow up on Sundays. Everybody comes, and then you have a midweek program like Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and you only have 10 kids. So you don't really need a microphone in that case. Another thing to keep in mind is the kids that are in our care right now, that whole generation Alpha. These are all kids that are visual learners. So how it worked back then with the lecture style method just doesn't really work now. So another thing to keep in mind is these kids are super well learned, like the stuff we didn't know, or some things that we didn't know when we were younger. Pretty much all these kids know now. Like everybody knows now. We can partially connect this to smartphone usage for the new kids that are being born. These kids have never known life without smartphones. And so we shouldn't treat them or degrade them by saying like, oh, you kids these days. But no, it's good to keep this in mind. So part of the iPad and smartphone and technology that these kids are getting will affect their learning, but it's also affecting their attention span. Despite all these changes, we really need to up the game as teachers and creating lessons that are geared towards that. Not that are sensory and visual overloads, but just that are geared to this generation's learning style. So keep the kids in mind if you need to improve in any of those areas, because this leads us to the next section of the church, and that is parents. Now, technology is all over our parents' hands. They're answering emails for their kids and text messages and all these types of things. There is definitely a social media overload for parents as well. And part of this contributes to them feeling overwhelmed and not supported. So the best thing we can do as kids ministry leaders for the parents in our group is to send out an email or text to just keep them informed on the things that are happening, if they'd like to join or not. And another thing that we can do is to help them feel supported and to create like a support group, like a small groups. Like if a parent's struggling and they just want some kind of like encouragement, coaching, maybe even a community group, we should make that space for them. And I'm not expecting any kids ministries to do this. If anything, it's kind of going to the women's ministry and saying, hey, can you do a mommy Bible study once a month, or just mommy's fellowship group once a month, or even going to the men's studies and just saying, hey, can we schedule a daddy-daughter dance or a camping trip with dad, just so dads can support other dads and moms can encourage other moms. And that way, another way that technology can impact the parents in our churches is through parenting classes. So imagine if somebody has like 3 kids and they want to become a better parent. What do you recommend for them? So technology has paved the way so that we can do Zoom parenting meetings late at night while the kids are asleep. There are online videos now and resources and PDF printables for becoming a good parent. And the parenting course that I love, that I recommend, is one by Conscious Discipline. If you're interested in that, find the link below, because it's super, super helpful, because we are supposed to be a church that shines the light of Christ, a church that loves on kids, not puts unnecessary expectations on children that are young. And we should just be a safe place for these families and kids to come to. So those are just the 3 areas for parents. Help them feel supported, help them be informed, and help them with parenting classes. Technology can help in all three of those areas. Without text messages and emails, how are they going to know if they're informed? The next area, as far as people goes, is teachers. Now, technology can really has lightened the load. If somebody was new to starting in kids ministry, first things first is to utilize technology and utilize just online databases by getting all of our teachers fingerprinted and background checked. Now, this is done primarily in America. It's not really done in international churches. And all that this does is just making sure that the people serving in our church are who they say they are. And it's to make sure that all the kids stay safe. Now, this is just a little step in keeping kids safe. There are other things we should do to not only keep the kids safe, but also keep the reputations of our teachers safe as well. And at our church, now this is not really new technology, but every classroom has 2 adults. And this is so that the reputation of our teachers are protected as well as the kids being protected as well. But as far as it relates to technology, we require that everyone be background checked. Now, this is also could be training. Now, technology has paved the way for training to be online for teachers as well. I've taken first aid classes, choking classes, and mandated sexual abuse training all online from my laptop. And this is really helpful. It saves time. When someone signs up to volunteer at a church and sometimes they just can't come in person, or if they're like me and they had a couple kids, trying to find a babysitter and then driving to church and doing these trainings, it's a lot of time. So if this can be done whenever a parent has time or a volunteer has time, adjusting to their work schedule, it just fits in wherever they have time available. So training being online has definitely freed a lot of the load for people volunteering. And another thing is teachers learning new skills. Back in the day, if you wanted to be better at classroom management, if you wanted to be a better teacher in large group teaching, you would have to go to teaching classes at a college or a university. Nowadays, you don't have to do that anymore. You can still take these classes, but if you were somebody who was just a volunteer at a Sunday school and you didn't have a whole lot of time, what if you just took a online kids ministry teaching skills class from the comfort of your own home at your own pace and at your own schedule? And that's what technology has done. And so I recommend for teacher training and for parent training, like I said, is using the Conscious Discipline series. It just really gets you into the mind and understanding the mind of a child and how we learn and how they learn and the different factors and the expectations of when you tell a child, stop, don't run, don't run, don't run, don't run. The words you should switch is it just gives you a whole new vocabulary. Conscious discipline really just gives you skilled tools for skilled situations. So now I'm recommending all my teachers and Sunday school teachers to just get training through Conscious Discipline. So I have a link below if you'd like to listen to one of their free trainings as it relates to being a teacher of a faith classroom setting and being one that's consciously there to help kids and not hinder them as you teach them about faith and about God and about the Bible. So this brings me to another thing, and that's curriculum for teachers. Technology has really changed the way we do lessons nowadays. Back then, if you wanted a lesson in the Bible, you wanted some kind of curriculum, you had to jump in your car, drive to a Christian bookstore, and spend 4 hours browsing through stuff and figuring out if that's what you wanted. You don't want it. Nowadays, we don't have that. We can just go on our smartphones and just look up different technology that's available to us. And so apart from that, if I was a volunteer in a classroom, now we don't have to print out lessons and hand them to somebody. I mean, we can if it's preferred. I know that's how I prefer, but sometimes you just can't. Families go on vacation. Families are going to baseball practice. Families are sitting in line at the pickup line at school. Families are at work. So the best way to change this up is by utilizing technology and emailing these lessons to the teachers. And we still always print our curriculum and then leave them in the classroom. That way, it's there for our teachers. But emailing them the lesson ahead of time helps them to prepare their hearts, their minds, and even kind of plan for any bonus activities they want to do at our kids' churches on the weekend. This brings me to technology and the Bible lessons. What technology do you need to teach the Bible? You don't need anything. You just need a Bible. And then, maybe if you need to better understand the Bible, you might need to utilize something called Blue Letter Bible, where it's basically an online studying tool to understand what the Bible means in its context, not just in the verse, but what it means in its context as a whole. And so I utilize Blue Letter Bible for looking up different commentaries and even looking up what certain word definitions are, because the whole Strong's Concordance, Strong's Dictionary is on Blue Letter Bible. It's a free resource to use. It's blueletterbible.org. And you can use this anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter if you're in a different country, you can still use it. And as far as technology outside of that, that's all I pretty much use for teaching a lesson or planning a lesson, studying a lesson. But when I teach a lesson, I use non-technology items. I use toys. I use the Bible. And the primary thing I also use is storytelling skills. So if you are a well-seasoned storyteller, chances are you will be a great Bible teacher, because you'll know how to inflex your voice. You'll know how to use crazy expressions. You'll know how to use your hands in a way that really helps surge the lesson forward. So final aspect and area of where you should be utilizing technology is in the church building itself. As far as the building goes, yes, you should make sure your building is safe. Use cameras, use locks during services on the outside of the doors. That way, anybody who's not a parent can't easily come in. We have check-in and check-out systems where the parents the kids get a name tag, and the name tag has 3 letters or numbers on it, and the parents will get a check-in and check-out receipt, and their receipt doesn't have a name, because we don't want that to get dropped and then somebody knows the kid's name, but it has just those 3 numbers or letters for the security code that matches the kid's name tag. We are a larger church, so we have custody issues, so we want to make sure that somebody who's not allowed to be by our kid, even if the kid loves that person, maybe it's, a relative of some sort, but if there is a restraint order placed, we want to make sure we keep our kids safe as well. The next thing I want to answer as far as technology goes as it relates to kids ministry building is, should you buy a projector or a TV? You shouldn't get a projector. Projectors are super costly. You have to replace the bulb. You have to have a computer working with it. You have to update stuff. You always have problems with projectors. Don't get me wrong, you have problems with TVs as well, but to buy a projector bulb is astronomically expensive, and that's just the light bulb inside. And for TVs nowadays are super cheap. They're affordable. You're better off buying a TV that's easy to maintain and it's easy to and cheap to replace than to buy a projector. That's just my recommendation. And so if you're wondering, well, how am I going to play stuff on the TV from a computer? Well, you use HDMI cables. You can use an Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, or a Roku player by just plugging it into the HDMI or USB on the TV directly. Then you can connect that to the internet, and you can use that to play worship songs, or you can play Bible lesson videos you find on YouTube. You can also cast from your phone, which is helpful with the TV. You just go on your phone and find what you want to share, and then throw it on up there for everybody to see. So yeah, as far as projectors versus TVs go, definitely go for a TV. Another question would be for the building itself, would you buy a handheld mic or a wireless headset for kids ministry? And my answer is, we're all over the place in kids ministry, so always go for something that's more headset. That way we can use our hands to hold our toys while we're teaching Bible stories. And so I always ask for a wireless headset, but if that's not available, that's okay. I'll hold my microphone in my armpit, or I'll try to get like a mic stand to help me hold it up. The next question is technology as far as worship goes for kids ministry. Should it be audio only or should it be a video? Now, my answer to that is same thing before. Is this a dinner party or is this a concert? If you got 200 kids, a kid that's in the real far, far, far back, he won't be able to see the teacher because she'll be this small way up on the stage. So my recommendation is to have someone up front leading worship on the floor and then have the hand motions or the worship song being played up above so that the kid in the back can see. Now, if it's a dinner party size kids ministry, then my answer would be always go for just the audio because kids connect with people. They don't connect with TV. I mean, we try to get them to connect with TV, but bro, have you gone to like dinner recently in America and seen the 2 or 3-year-olds that are holding smartphones and iPads instead of talking to their parents? Like, trust me, they don't want that. They don't want that. They'd rather dance and sing and go to church and do that with an adult that's smiling on the stage more than a body on a screen. The last thing is Bible teachings. Should you play videos or should you use a PowerPoint? And my answer to that is why not do both? And this is why. It's because kids, their attention span is only as long as every year old they are. That's how many minutes you get. So if you're teaching 9-year-olds, you got 9 minutes. If you're teaching 6-year-olds, you got 6 minutes. After that, the attention starts to drop. And remember, we could bore them to death, but I'm not going to bore any kid to death with the gospel. So what I do is I'm allotted 20 minutes most of the time to teach the Bible to a group of 200 first and second graders. So what I will do is I will play a video. I will come out. I will talk about the Bible lesson. I will give myself like about 7 minutes to do that. After that, I'll switch. I will also do a PowerPoint while I'm talking. My application tends to be told with toys, and I pretend that the kids are the toys and they're interacting with each other. So I say yes, use as much as you can for the time that you have, but it should be helpful. Remember, technology. Is it necessary? No, not always. Can it be helpful? Yeah, it should. So my answer to that is, as far as video or PowerPoint, is it helpful? Is it necessary? And will it help me work smarter and not harder? So if you find a video on YouTube and you're like, this is okay, I guess it might help. My answer would be, don't use that video that week. Either look for a different video or tell the story with toys. And if you're looking for better ways to teach in large group settings, I have a video link down below because I go in depth on all the different ways you can better teach in these settings for groups of kids that are 100 kids or more. And so check out the ways that I do that. But technology, PowerPoints, TVs, and videos. Is it necessary? No. Is it helpful? Yeah, sometimes. And will it help the lesson go through? Yeah, as long as it matches the lesson. That's what I would say. But if I had 10 kids, I don't think I would do a video or a PowerPoint. I would do it for the concert atmosphere, but not for the dinner party size. So let me switch gears and let me just tell you about the technology we use at my church. Now, previously, I was at a church in San Diego, and we had about 500 kids weekly. That was from like birth to 5th grade, 500 kids. And I thought that was a lot. And then I moved to Arizona, and then now I go to a church called Cornerstone Church. And I make the curriculum for the kids that are 2 years old all the way up to kindergarten, which are like 6 years old. And we have like on average on a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 400 kids in just that little bracket. That's not the babies, and that's not even the first graders to 5th grade. I would say total, I'm sure we're like 1,000 or more each weekend. And so let me just tell you that what we do for our classroom as it relates to preschoolers. What we do is we have little rooms, right, for these young kids. We won't have more than 15. Sometimes on emergency Sundays, I'll be honest, we got like 20 kids in one classroom. But they're smaller size classrooms, 2 adults for each classroom. And the technology they have in there is a TV and a Roku player. What's nice about Roku players is that it's kind of like a cloud storage system. So I will find 3 worship songs for the month. And we also have a Bible lesson video that relates to that week's lesson. I email them out to Tim, my buddy who helps me load everything up onto the Roku. So in each classroom, he's not going in, putting it on each TV. He's just putting in the cloud, and the cloud disperses between, I think it's 6 classrooms. So he just uploads it one time, goes to all 6. A teacher will go in, they set it up for the day, they have it ready. We play our background music from that TV, our Bible lesson and worship videos, all on that TV. And so that is the 2-year-old to 6 or kindergarten classroom. But let me take you forward now to 1st grade to 5th grade on a midweek program, because since I'm busy, I'm with the little kids on Sunday mornings. I don't serve with the big kids Sunday mornings. So I serve with the big kids Tuesday night on our midweek program. And for that, we utilize a lot of technology. I mean, it's a concert setting. So we have one person doing sound, playing the songs, turning on the microphone. They're using a program called Presenter, which is what a lot of churches use. If you are a smaller church and you're like, what is that? It's basically helping you play videos, songs, PowerPoint. It's just like an online library. We use lots of microphones for that night. They're all wireless, which is great so that kids don't trip on them. Yeah, but they are a little pricier. So whoever's teaching tends to use a wireless headset, and whoever's just giving announcements has a little handheld you can turn on and off with a button. Now, in the large group setting, we do use projectors because they are already purchased before by the big church. As the big church slowly upgrades things, then we slowly upgrade ours as well. And that's just our midweek program. We keep it pretty basic, keep it fun and engaging. Now, I also need to tell you how we use technology to plan our curriculum. Now, because there's so many kids, 400 kids, you can't roll up into there on a Friday, and I can't just go into like, oh, let me plan a lesson. Today's Friday. We'll use this tomorrow at Saturday night service. No, that can't happen. So our mindset is we're using technology to work smarter and not harder so that we can spend more time on who matters. So part of that means planning our curriculum 2 months ahead. So currently we're at the end of March. I'm finishing up the month of May's curriculum. So April 1st, whenever that starts, I'll start planning June and all those other different weeks that month of June. Whenever it comes to planning curriculum, I use Google Sheets. I use Google Sheets to write out the week, write the lesson, plan out the craft, plan out this. And I use Google Sheets not because I love Sheets and I love Excel and all these things, but no, I use this because Google actually has something called Autocrat, which is a program that takes my little information and fills in the blanks on this lesson plan that I have. And it just pulls from that. So it saves me a lot of time so that I can work smarter, not harder. Is it necessary? No. Is it helpful? Yes. And it saves me a bunch of time. So it's worth learning if you are the one like me who's planning the curriculum and planning the activities for kids ages 2 to kindergarten or 2 to whatever, 5th grade. So that way you can spend your time elsewhere. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Autocrat, please write a comment down below because these videos do take time. And if there's interest, I'll make you a video. So that way you can plan a year in a day and plan your month in a day and plan your weekends, so that way you can spend time with your family and focus on what matters better. All right. Now, the next thing is volunteers. We schedule our volunteers at big churches as far ahead as possible. So when we get a really good Sunday school teacher and we're like, this person's got it. They've been serving for like 3 to 6 months. They're loving with the kids. They come in knowing what to teach and how the flow of things go. We asked them, we're like, would you be interested in being a head teacher, like leading a class every Sunday or every other Sunday for some of these teachers? And it can't be less than every other Sunday. And the reason why is because kids love consistency. They love going in and seeing the same face. So this could be at a small church or at a big church. 2-year-olds recognize faces and not names. So when a little kid sees me, they'll go, oh yeah, I remember her from a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And then they'll be more comfortable to stay with me. As the kids get comfortable with us, the parents can go to service and not worry about the young ones. And then the kids can feel safe and loved at a church where everything's familiar. Imagine if you started a new job each weekend. This is why we want to give these kids the same teacher each weekend. Imagine if you had a new boss at work every weekend. This is why we want these kids to have the same teacher every weekend, because if we had a new boss every weekend, we would be flipping out and want to leave the place. And so we don't want to do this for these kids. So when we sign up teachers to volunteer in our classrooms, we ask them if they're willing to serve every week as head teacher. We get it. Go on vacation, yes, please. But if you can be so impactful in this kids ministry if you can serve every weekend. Now, we do have parents who are moms and they say, I will commit to every other week. We say, awesome, let's still put you on the schedule. But if a mom can only come once a month, then we don't, or a dad, I'm just always saying mom. But if a dad or a mom can only serve once a month, or a volunteer can only serve once a month, then we have them go on an assistant role, not as a head teacher role. And this is, like I said, just to create that process and that familiarity of the same teacher for our kids in the classroom. So we try to schedule them as far ahead as possible. But basically, right now we're in March. And I know that all the ladies that I work with, they're scheduling people for the month of April. And they have April done already. And for the most part, April as a whole month, they're still making sure that whoever they're missing, they fill in. But there's other people at my church who just plan the scheduling for the volunteers, and they use Google Sheets to do that. And the reason why they use Google Sheets is it's free. You can share it between a couple of teams, and it's just easy to print from. So they'll have we'll have one sheet for the whole month of April, and we'll have little blocks for each weekend. So we'll have April week 1, April week 2, April week 3, and week 4. We can see each classroom and go, oh, that classroom has a red box. That means they're missing a person, either a head teacher or an assistant teacher. And we got to fill that. So they'll make a couple of texts, maybe a call, and be like, hi, Susie, this is Janet from Cornerstone. Can you serve on the second week of April by any chance? And they'll say yes or no. And then we'll just say, okay, thank you. And the big thing is just asking. Just ask. The worst thing that can happen is somebody tells you no. And that's okay. So we're always asking, not because we want to be annoying, but because people just need little reminders here and there. And so one thing that we did find at our church is that parents and volunteers, they look at texts, always are looking at texts, but emails get lost. So whenever we plan a kids event or are asking about scheduling, we send a text first. And then after that, we'll send out the emails, or the emails hold curriculum, the emails hold the schedule, kind of like the slow, boring stuff we can reference later on. But if time is of the essence, we send text messages. Another reason why we use Google Sheets is it just helps us to streamline stressful church holidays. So Easter and Christmas in America is when most people go to church. They tend to only go those 2 times a year, is Easter or Christmas. For our church, we're having to do a lot of extra services. So normally on the weekend, we have 4 services, 1 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. But this Easter, we're going to have 12. Wow, 12. That's rough, bro. So we're scheduling people as far in advance as possible. Our services are only an hour long. They're not an hour and a half. So by the time you come into your classroom and start serving and all the kids get picked up, on an average Sunday, you're there an hour and a half. Another reason why we plan so far ahead is so that we can allow ourselves cushion to get help, to get volunteers, to get signups. And this is so that the volunteers feel prepared for what's coming. And it allows us leaders to go on vacation. So currently, if you're wondering, why is she in this setting? She's normally in her office. I am, but I'm actually on vacation visiting family. So planning our curriculum this far in advance lets me to go on vacation, no worries. It lets my coworkers go on vacation, no worries. A lot of us and staff, we're moms and we have kids who get sick. And so if our kids get sick, that's okay. Don't worry. We've planned far enough ahead. We're digitally sharing all of our sign-up files and curriculum files so you can go on vacation. You can stay home. This is just a lot of freedom and flexibility, and it allows us to have a time of rest, because that is one big mistake that most kids ministries make, is they don't allow time for their kids ministry workers to have rest. So regardless, we give ourselves rest, whether the big service puts us on vacation for services or not. Another thing is planning this far in advance lets me to get all my craft problems solved. Now, I'm planning 400 crafts for kids ages 2 to 6 years old. So it's real important that the crafts I plan are crafts so that both age groups can succeed. So if we're making a necklace, the 2-year-olds will already have the string attached, but the 6-year-olds will put their own string on later on. So that's just what I've been doing, and it's been working out awesome. And also, this allows me to have a craft prep team. So there are some ladies at our church, they want to serve in kids ministry, but they physically can't. And that's okay, because they join me for the craft prep team and they use their scissors to praise the Lord. If you're interested in a craft prep team and how you can set it up, I have a totally separate YouTube video on that, and you'll find the link for it down below. And if you're interested in all the files I have for that as well, I'm giving those out for free on Teachers Pay Teachers, and that link will be below as well. Another thing I have to bring up that my church does is their VBS, which they call Kids Camp, because people who don't go to our church are more inclined to send their kids to summer day camp at church or church camp. But they're like, what's a VBS, bro? That's why we call it a kids camp. We have our VBS, and it is a large group. We let 4-year-olds, preschoolers, go to our church VBS. And you're thinking, what? Yes, that's what I thought as well. But these little kids feel like such big kids. They're just excited to be there. They're sweet and little. And this is when we use a lot of tech, because it's not 200 kids. It tends to be about 500, 600, 700 kids in one auditorium room. And that's not including the volunteers. We tend to have about 300 or 400 volunteers. So you're talking about easily 900 people at a VBS. The big church comes and helps us. So we have the big church's sound guy. We have the big church's worship team helping us. We have the big church's welcoming team, women's ministry, men's ministry. We have the MOPS ministry. They jump in and help. Everybody comes in and helps us with the labor, but the technology is all coming from the big church. So they really come and help us, because like I said, this isn't a dinner party. This is a concert. So they help us put on a more of a concert type feel. That's my church. That's the technology we use. If I maybe forgot something that you use all the time, or you just want to share something bonus, so that way another kids church leader can hear about what you do at your church and what helps you, please write it down in the comments below. I want to know. Stay focused with whatever technology you use. And remember, you have to ask yourself this thing. Is it helpful? Is it necessary? And will it help me work smarter and not harder? So that way I could spend more time on what matters, like the kids, the people, the parents, the volunteers, all those things. Thanks so much for watching this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.